Do you feel like a bag lady carrying around all of this stress and not being able to enjoy your life? Well, let's talk about it today, what you can do differently.
During the pandemic, I started down this journey on going from what I like to call healing to wholeness. Why don't you tell me
Good evening. Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wizerr, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, but with all thy getting, get understanding. And today we want to talk about understanding our stress, our overwhelm, and even our scary times in our life when we're just like not sure what to do and what we can do about those things. We don't believe that God has called us to the life that society is calling us to. And we want to talk about how we can turn the page on these feelings of stress and overwhelm. Good evening, Onita. How are you?
Good evening, Lorraine. I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm a little bit stressed.
If I'm telling the truth, I am too. But I did a little bit of de-stressing earlier today, so it's kind of helped me just relax a little bit. And I want to say I'm giving up for the day, but whatever else can happen or be done, I'm just like, okay.
Okay, well, I love that. That's so good. For those of you who have been following us, you know that we are on hiatus from our live episodes, but this is actually the last one. We will be back live and in color next Tuesday. And we are excited to be back with you for season 6. Can you believe it? Season 6.
Woo-hoo!
But today, in our final recorded episode, we wanted to talk about the bags that we carry. You all know that song, Bag Lady. But we wanted to talk about particularly women, but men carry their own burdens that we are not familiar with. And just what God says about that, what we can do about it. Is it realistic for us to live this way? Is it realistic for us to stop living this way, given the society and culture that we live in? Are we just talking and saying self-care and, take stuff off your plate? Are we just saying that just because it's a good thing to say? Or is it actually possible to do that and live that way? We want to dive into all of these different aspects of the topic, but I'm going to just ask Onita to kind of frame it because there's a reason that we actually are talking about that today.
Yes, for sure, for sure. I'm glad that we're discussing it. Being a wife and a mother of 4, and somebody who's an elder, a coach, co-host, big sister, oldest daughter. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm in that what you call sandwich generation where I'm still taking care of kids, but now also having help with my mom and my grandparents. There's definitely a lot of people said juggling balls, but it's more like spinning 10 plates at a time and try not to let each one crash. And this past Sabbath, our pastor, John Pooler III, he was preaching and he started off with the verse. He didn't say the topic, the title just yet, but he was telling us how we read in the New Testament, and I'll try to get that verse for you guys. But it was a part where they were having a there was a feast, and Jesus' brothers told them, kind of like, hey, go up there, kind of go show them your stuff and just show them who you are. And Jesus said, don't pressure me. He literally said, don't pressure me. And the pastor took it and made the title, Don't Push Me. And of course, we had to go into the song, Don't Push Me, because I'm close to the edge. And so the reality is that a lot of people are walking around daily close to the edge. Not just, the angry people we see on the highway and the roads and people fighting and trolling on social media, but people every day, even sitting in church, are silent, suffering in silence, and not being able to manage all that life has to offer them. So, and all that is on them. And so we had to have this discussion, and especially as women who, are typically, we're not just nurturing in the home, but sometimes having to also work, we're juggling a lot. And so this episode is necessary because we're also dealing with Suicide Awareness Month. And unfortunately, some people get to the edge and get to the point where they feel like they can no longer handle it all. And so the pastor showed how he was on his way to work. He's also a chaplain, and saw a guy sitting on the edge of the bridge with his legs dangling. And he said, you know how your eyes catch something when you're used to driving a certain way repeatedly? You're like, you're there. You end up at work. You're not even consciously thinking, oh, I need to take this exit. He said, but it hit him. He's like, that can't be what I saw. Let me turn back around and come again. And sure enough, it was somebody that he worked with at the hospital who was sitting there. And basically, they were able to pray and coach him off kind of back. And he basically just said life had been lifing and became so overwhelming through stress and other hurdles that he just felt like that was the only option he had. And so by God's grace, they saw him, they got him, and he's still here today. But it's very important that we have this discussion for the sake of men and women, because it plagues us all when we're talking about stress and anxiety and worry. And so I'm glad we have this topic. We have some ideas and ways of how to de-stress, to put down some of our bags, ladies, from practical sense, but also biblical sense. So we're going to have this conversation today.
Well, I'm glad. And just for the record, we are going to have a whole episode on just kind of suicide awareness and all of these things later in the month when we have a therapist with us. I am a social worker, but that's not my area of expertise. And so I don't want to have that conversation without someone to guide us who has more experience in that. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that episode. And, anyone that who needs to hear it, which is probably everyone, because even if that's not you, it's probably somebody in your life. And as Christians, we tend to sometimes over spiritualize things, and we say, well, just pray about it. And we certainly believe prayer is the key to much.
Yes.
But God still allows us to share and talk with other people who are Christian, who can support us, who can give us wise counsel, who can help us talk through things. And that's not a bad thing for us to be doing when we have a lot of burdens that we're carrying. But also, as Onetia said, we really want to talk about putting down some of our bags.
Yes.
So, as a single woman, when I lived in Richmond, one of the first places, not the first, but one of the first places I lived was a high rise. And we didn't have our own parking spaces. We just had to park on the street. And often I would get home late or whatever because I was working or in school. And if I would go to the grocery store, I would have, several bags or whatever. And I would have my briefcase. I would have I would have all the bags because I didn't want to have to come back down.
Yes.
From the 6th floor to get more stuff and then go up and then come back. It was just too much. And so you can psychologically get used to, just like physically, I can carry a lot of bags. Let's be clear. The only reason I don't do that now is because I can park right outside the door and walk inside and come get it. But if I had to, I can carry a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I got used to carrying it. It doesn't mean it was best for me. It doesn't mean it was the right decision. It just meant that I got used to carrying all those bags. And we can get used to carrying the physical bags, but we can even get more used to carrying the emotional bags and the psychological bags and everybody else's bags and the spiritual bags that weigh us down. And then there can come a breaking point.
Yeah.
And so we want to talk about that today. Managing your stress. How do you do that, Onetia? How do we do that?
Oh my word! How? Help somebody help me now. There was somebody learned I don't know this year, last year, I don't know, but said it's called the 3Ds. You
Okay.
can delegate, decline, or do it differently. The 3Ds: delegate,
Okay. Let me write that down.
or
'Cause
do it
I'm
differently.
learning with y'all.
Yes,
Delegate, decline,
or
or do
do it
differently.
differently.
Mhm.
And initially, this came about just in trying to not have an excuse of I'm tired. When my husband's like, "Hey, girl, let's spend some time together," or "Hey," and I'm like, "I'm tired," because I know, I've done the cooking, the cleaning, I've worked, I've been on the phone emotionally for people, I've done all these things, so now it's time for bed, and I'm like, I'm too tired. So the delegation has to happen, and that's in any aspect of life, because sometimes we want to, just because I can do it, and I probably can, and I can do it better than say my husband or my kids or somebody else, doesn't mean I have to delegate.
Mhm.
God didn't give me eight, I don't have 8 arms. Also, I'm human. And so we need to delegate. That helps break down a lot of stress. It helps you not have resentment to those in your home that when you are like you being at one point during the pandemic, I was about to lose my mind on the fact that nobody was replacing the toilet paper and nobody was replacing paper towels. And I was just like, what are these people doing? And why did they not get it? Why are they waiting until they use all of the detergent in the laundry room? And then I come up to make a load and I'm like, but I had to stop. Like, go crazy, end up in jail. But delegate. Okay, this is so and so. This is your job. Your job is to make sure this is taken care of.
Mm.
And it seems minuscule, but one, we're teaching them, they have the life skills. And I require my kids to do chores and clean up a room on all those things. But these are some things they were always looking to mom to do.
Right. Right.
If we can't find something, Mom, where is it? And a lot of times we do know where it's all at, but nobody really understands the amount of stress that also puts on me to have to keep up with everybody things mentally as well as
Mhm.
changing all the time. I'm doing all the cleaning. I mean, I'm not all the cleaning, but I'm doing all the cooking. For sure, I'm doing all the cooking.
Mhm.
So we typically want to start in the clean kitchen. So I'm straightening it up, then I'm cooking, and then I'm cleaning up. I'm like, no, delegate. I've
Yeah.
cooked this food, especially on Sundays. I do a big one, big brunch, and the family all gets to fully sit down together at the same time. So now they know, whereas normally on Sundays, I'm now cooking, I'm cleaning as I go, which you do a little bit, but I'm doing so much of it that by the time I sit and enjoy the meal, everybody's just about done. And I was like, no more of that. I'm cooking
Yeah.
it. I'm cooking
What?
it. Yeah. I'm cooking it, and then I'm sitting down, and we're gonna all enjoy it nicely. And then I'm going to the sofa. I'm picking up my book, or I'm putting on a service that I missed from Saturday. Another
Mhm.
church. I got to have a buffet of that. And then I'm like, yeah, that's y'all thing. And guess what? Sometimes because kids just think doing the dishes is doing the dishes, but it's also all you moms know. It's cleaning the counter off, wiping the faucet, making some extra waters here and there, making sure the stove is clean. Sometimes it's not done exactly to my liking, but the main thing was done, right? And I've delegated that. And I can remind them to fix this other thing later, but it helps cut down on a lot of stress, undue stress, undue
Mhm.
resentment and anger that is not necessary. It gives other people in the house another chance to do it, to learn a new skill, to be better with it, and so they can do that. Declining, aka saying no. Saying no. I've become more equipped and better with saying no this year than ever before
Mhm.
because God didn't call me to be God.
He did not. He
He
did not.
called me to be Onita. So
Mhm.
just because the phone rings and there's some family member in need again, this is not the one time. This is like the norm. Now this has become the
Yeah.
habitual norm of them needing. And I don't care how quick and easy it is. I can just quickly send the catch or whatever. No, I've had to say decline and say no. That means even in ministry, y'all, because this was a huge one for me,
It's a huge one.
where we feel like, well, whenever God calls you, you're supposed to say yes. I'll go, Lord, send me. No, ask God first. God, is this what you want me to do?
Mhm.
This is where something you want me to do, God, then I'll do it. But if not, supply ram in the thicket, because we ain't called to be everything to everybody at all times.
Right.
And
Right.
while sacrificing our own sanity, our own sanctification, and our own spirituality, like our physical bodies are doing harm now
Right.
because we're
Right.
not getting what we need. And then lastly, do it differently. So some things, like I said, I'll go back to the cooking and clean. I do wipe down and do things as I'm cooking because it's just part of me. But growing up, we were like, it was indoctrinated. If you use your dishwasher, you're lazy. If you use your dishwasher, you're lazy.
Oh, wow.
Also, we only had the vacuum to vacuum carpet. Well, I don't have any carpet in my home anymore. So naturally, people think, oh, well, the vacuum's in the closet. No, make sure every crumb gets up. We're going to do it differently. We're going to vacuum the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
now. Make sure every crumb's getting up. So therefore, there's not a lot of pain on my back. If I'm doing it, because I typically still say kids that y'all thing, which I tell them that's a luxury. And the dishwasher. We're going to use the dishwasher. First of all, scientifically it's healthier. It's literally steaming these things and heating. So it's getting more germs off of them versus you using a sponge repeatedly or rag that if you ain't ran it through the dishwasher even after the fact, it's germs all on that thing. But I'm like, we're gonna do it differently. We're gonna use the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Despite this unwritten rule that people who use the dishwasher are lazy, it's in my house. I'm gonna use it, and it's energy efficient. They say I'm using less water by using it. So those are the 3 Ds.
I like those. I like those. So delegate, I love that's important. I think one thing that you said that is significant for particularly for women is that it's not going to be done exactly the way that you want it to be done. Certainly not at the beginning if you're delegating to your children or even your husband, because he's learned a different way himself. You know, I mean, sometimes they may do it better than you, but it might be different. But your children are learning just like, and so you're just like, hey, you did a great job. Remember to do this part next time or whatever. And you're learning, but you're not saying, oh, let me take it all back because you didn't do it exactly the way that I am used to it being done or that I even want it done.
Right.
And some of those things are legitimate because, you know, it drives me crazy when people leave the stuff in the sink. I'm just like, you washed all the dishes, but you left all the food in the little strainer thing. That's just so gross. Like, what made you think that was okay? You know, but I don't want to then have to wash dishes for an hour just because they left something that I could dump in 3 seconds. So or I can tell them to dump in 3, like, oh, remember, this is part of it too. So sometimes we just take the whole thing back when it's really just teaching how do you do this differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about, and this may be a sidebar or whatever, but talking about sometimes children and probably men more, children may not be aware of this concept. They may just do it unwittingly. But, you know, there's this concept of weaponized incompetence where there are men who will do things wrong or do things poorly so that their wives don't ask them to do it again. And I was just like, if that ain't the most, like, I couldn't even, when I heard this concept, I was just so beyond infuriated.
Yeah.
It kind of went back to our episode from, is it last week or 2 weeks ago? We were talking about signs that you really love someone.
Yes.
That's a sign that you really love yourself, that you even do that.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be in that boat. And if someone tries to do that, we allow it by saying, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take it back because you didn't do it the way that I feel like, okay, well, you just going to have to learn how to do it because we're going to keep on rolling, bro.
Exactly.
The next thing that you said was decline. And the thing that I think that's important about that is that we, like you said, you may decline your husband because you haven't declined all of these other people.
Yes.
And so now that creates problems in your marriage because it's like we take for granted the people that are closest to us.
Yeah.
And so it's okay for me to say no to him, but it's not okay for me to say no to all the 10 people who called me before to ask me. And that's why I'm tired. So even learning from a relational perspective, as far as like dating and marriage, is that when we're in that relationship, we think, oh, well, they're always going to be here, so it's okay. We don't maybe consciously think that, but we subconsciously think that, which is where most of our thinking happens anyway. And so it's like, oh, well, they're always going to be here. They'll be fine tomorrow and, whatever. But then this other person, so it's like, no, say no to them so you can say yes to the person that you committed your life to.
Yeah.
And then do it differently. I like that. I think that just abandoning all of the societal and cultural just junk
Yes.
that we have taken in from just that, oh, if you use a dishwasher, you're lazy. Well, if I am lazy, okay, cool. Whatever. Like, what? You don't live here, so it don't matter to me what you think about it. As long as my dishes are clean and I ain't have to do it, whatever it takes, bro, whatever it takes.
Yes.
First of all, you got to load the dishwasher. Then you got to unload the dishwasher. You got to put all the dishes away, whatever. But someone else's determination of what is lazy or isn't lazy doesn't really matter to me because I'm an adult and I'm in my house.
Yes.
And so I think that even that is, we are able to do things differently when we shed all of that junk from our mind.
Yes.
Say, hey, that don't even make sense. And I don't even need to justify whether it's cleaner or faster. This is just what we do here.
Yeah.
So it's fine for you to do what you do at your house, but at my house, this is what we do. So
that's what we do. That's what we do.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
So one thing that I say around managing stress is I think that even identifying where our points of stress are, because a lot of times we can roll, like I said, we can carry all those bags and we get so used to carrying them that it almost seems normal.
Yeah.
But in our society, in our culture, there is a real pressure to feel pressured.
Oh yeah, it's a hustle and grind.
The hustle and grind mindset that we didn't have before.
Right.
And now it feels, and some people will say it openly, but it feels as if you're not grinding for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, if you don't got 15 things on your plate, then you are lazy. Then you're not doing anything. You ain't about your business. You ain't this, you ain't that, you ain't all. And so everyone is just dumping all these things. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Feeling utterly and completely physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, socially exhausted, emotionally exhausted, but don't nobody want to admit, I don't want all this stuff on my plate. I'm not this hungry. Like I am not this hungry.
Yes.
Have all this stuff on my plate.
Yes.
I'm gonna start taking that stuff off. So I think identifying, like, do you have those things, the things that you are doing right now, are you doing them because you want to do them? Are you doing them because God has directed you to do them? Or are you doing them so other people will be impressed about the fact that you're doing them? Because I think when we take stock of that, when we really take stock of our real motives, then we will start, some of those things will quickly and easily fall off of our plate because we'll realize, oh, okay, I wanted these people to like me. That's why I kept saying yes to this stuff. But now I don't care anymore. If that's the criteria by which they will like me, then they didn't really like me anyway. So now I have the same impact without having the same responsibility. So I think that that's a really important thing, is identifying where your stress is, why it is, and is that something that God has ordained for you to be doing, or that is necessary for you to be doing? Even from the perspective of the things that are necessary.
Yeah.
You're married, you have a husband, you have to take care of your husband and him vice versa.
Yeah.
your children. You can't just be like, hey, well, I'm taking y'all off my plate. So y'all just got
I'm done.
y'all
Fend for
just gotta live
yourself.
your own life, take care of yourself or whatever. Worry about yourself.
About yourself.
But I think that, you have a home, you have a job,
Yeah.
so all of those are things that have to be there. But how you do those things can change so that it's not a burden, but it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that you outlined, delegate, decline, and do it differently, you can apply all of those things to those relationships and those have to responsibilities after you've cleared your plate from the thought I had to, don't really want to, someone pressured me, those types of responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then now you can have a different perspective.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Well, you said a couple of key things that really punched home for me, and I could say helped me. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but helped me get some things off my plate too. Was you said take stock of what it is that you're doing. And is this what you should be doing? And do you have to absolutely do it all? And the reason for why you're doing some of this. You said saying yes to people, another form of is people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And so people pleasing, for whatever that means, like you said, trying to get recognition or not being willing to say no because you don't want your kids to feel, you don't ever want to disappoint. I worked at PTA, still volunteering. We were around a lot of moms who are stay-at-homes or not stay-at-home moms. They're military moms. They're working. They're doctors. They're this, they're that, of all facets of life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they don't want to ever let their kids down, especially if you had a life where you had to do a lot for yourself as a kid, as growing up. So now you're what we're doing, helicopter parenting, doing everything for the kids, right? And so you don't, and it's a form of people pleasing. You don't want to let them down, or I got to show up for everything, and I got to do everything. I had a kid leave a lunchbox a day. She's in high school. The first thing I asked her was, "Do you have money in your purse?" Because guess what? You got money, you're gonna just buy lunch. You're gonna make it do what it do. She left her purse. I was like, you so lucky. I had time this morning. But before, it would have been not even I'm going, oh, let me take her bag. No, they gotta sometimes miss their lunch. Okay.
You made them fast for 2 days. What am I?
You know what I'm saying?
You can train them now.
You know what I'm saying? You can go without eating today. And so but sometimes
you remember in the future. Sometimes we forget stuff. So I'm like, if it's a habitual thing, then I'd be like, oh, okay, you're gonna be all right today, and then you'll not forget anymore. But I'm like,
right, because I'm telling you, there's times where I was up at the school volunteering. Sometimes I used to drop my kids off and just stay there in the office up and doing. And there's some parents who were coming daily. Oh, Keegan left his book. Oh, Keegan left his pencil. He left his computer. He left his. And I'd be like, even if you're home, do not make this the norm, because you're also now missing out on something else you need to do. Right. The other thing is comparison. You've kind of hit on that too. Like, well, also what society is saying we should be doing.
Yeah. So
now, not only do you have your own things you want to do in your own family nucleus or by yourself, but then looking out in the world of social media where it's saying, you should be doing these 10 things every morning when you wake up. Only one is in your routine. Pray. The other 9, you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to do that. I got to do these. If I want to be successful, I got to be posting on social media 8 times a day. I got to be so comparing.
I got to journal. I got to ice plunge. I got to meditate. I got to
all these things.
Do any work.
Right. Like, when am I going to have a chance to make the money? I got to do all of these things. So you can't compare. So again, taking stock of what it is you need to do, like what is for you. And honestly, part of the stress thing is actually sitting down and to think about yourself. I would tell you, again, as a wife and a mother and somebody who, since I was young, been taking care of people, when people start saying, so what are some of your dreams? What are some of your aspirations? And I was like, keep my house clean. Like I had not even sat down to do that much. And so when people are used to carrying all the bags and used to taking care of everybody, practical stuff, or just having a simple moment of sitting down and taking stock of things, it's not in their dialogue. It's not
Yeah.
even your psyche to even do, right? And forget
Right.
talking about dreams. I'm meeting with women as I'm coaching. What are some of your dreams? And I don't have any. No. What are some of the ones you let die because
Yes.
of all of the things, all
Yeah.
of the bags you're constantly carrying? Let's pull those back up. If money was not, this was one of the first questions I asked a woman. If money was no option, if money was no option, like you could do anything, what is that thing you would do? And what are the things you would do? And sometimes it's hard, it brings up tears because sometimes people can't even think of it because it's been years of being used to carrying all the bags. It's so
Very
down,
so far.
it's buried so far. And it's not even just a matter of somebody ever told them, oh, that's stupid, you can't do that dream. But then you planted that seed, you've started believing it, and then you've put all these other things on top of it. And so we have to take stock of our lives and take stock of the things that what we're doing or not doing that are killing the dreams and the goals and the visions that God placed in us. He gave us these creative ideas.
Yes.
The other, I would say one of my burdens of some things why I couldn't do it was being a better steward financially. What are you putting your money into or spending your money, or why are you having to work doubles every day? And so now you're super tired. Or what are you doing with your life as far as your financials? Are you spending wisely? Are you saving wisely so that you can take vacations? I know some people, they never take off. And part of it is to, like, some jobs allow you to sell back your vacation. So they like, oh, I need that money, and never take off. Then not understanding why there's hypertension now, high blood pressure, diabetes, migraines. I had a friend that suffered all the time from migraines. She never would take vacations because she's like, oh, my grandma used to work all the time. And we just hardworking women in our family. I'll take the little holidays they give us. And that was it. But never understood why she's constantly suffering from migraines until one day, the job and downsizing, they laid her off. They said, hey, here's a severance package. So in that time of waiting for the new job, guess what happened, y'all?
The migraines went.
Migraines went away. The migraines went away. And her husband encouraged her, whatever the next job was going to be, we need to set some boundaries. We need to ensure, oh, that's another one I have written down. Set some boundaries. We need to ensure.
We got it.
That we need to ensure that, one, the type of job you're picking, you're gonna have stress. We can't say, oh, there won't be no stress.
Right.
You may have stress, but choose something that would help you have a better work-life balance. That you ain't having to bring your work home every single time. That you're not having to do these doubles. Like, it needs to financially make sense. Because I will say this, that girl she saved every penny and double couponed. So that was not her problem. But also that you're going to have the vacation time. You're going to take the vacation time. We're going to make the boundary. So he said, we're having at least one family vacation, then we're having at least one you and I. So whether you choose to you got to now take the time. And she was agreeable with that. And she said, she didn't suffer from migraines anymore. Like, it was miraculous. But that God had to allow that door to close for her to even do that. She didn't come to the realization.
She had to kill herself.
Right. And how many people are in the graves, early graves, that the dreams died with them, but also because they worked themselves into this world. So I'm glad again we're talking about it. Ladies, catch what you can, get the gems you need to be able to be successful with helping to de-stress more and living a more fuller life with joy, true joy from God that He can grant us when we're doing the things that He's equipped us to do.
Totally agree with that. And one thing you said that I want to just kind of bite off of is you said that, no job is going to be completely stress-free. And I just recently did a presentation about the comfort zone. And in that research, I was researching just kind of what that is, and just kind of, I had a different spin on it or whatever. But the reality is that we don't need no stress. actually we need eustress, which is that positive motivation that gives us excitement and joy and the ability to accomplish things that are hard enough so that we have to work at it, but not so hard that we feel like we could never accomplish it.
Yeah, get
So
over that.
eustress, EU stress, is a real thing that psychologists say we need in order to be successful and to just have enjoyable life.
Yes.
So yes, your job will have stress. It should have stress, but it should have good stress. It shouldn't be. Now, I'm not saying you won't have a challenging day or a client or whatever. That's just life because we live in a sinful world.
Yeah.
So we're not looking for an environment where we just like chilling on the couch and just kind of like, life is
bonded on.
We have enough money, we whatever, and we just kind of sleep and get up and read like when we were kids, sleep and you get up and read and then you fall back asleep again and you eat and whatever. That's not godly either. God gave us work, but that the things that we're doing should be things that challenge us, that get our mind going, that help us grow, that develop our skills, that keeps us motivated and excited and passionate, but not that overwhelms us every single day so that we feel like we're drowning.
Yeah.
And so there's a real difference in those things, and navigating that process, like you said with your friend, is understanding boundaries, which we're going to talk about next, but creating an environment or choosing an environment, because most people don't have their own business or have whatever, you're in the environment that you're in. But a lot of times we choose or we choose jobs because of the money and not the environment.
Yes.
And you can have all the money in the world, but if the environment is sucking your life, then have you really won? Because it sounds like you didn't. But if you have a job that maybe pays less than this other job, but the environment is family oriented and nurturing, and when I say family, I don't mean husband and wife necessarily, but they have an environment where they consider people family and they nurture you and they aren't trying to overwhelm you. It's not just about bringing in the next buck. It's about building a solid foundation and quite frankly, a nice, godly Christian company could be that too. They're not the only ones who care about the employees, who care about your families. So they're not saying, I need you to be here till 10 o'clock every night, but I need you to go home and be with your family.
Yes.
That you can be refreshed and come back. Are there times, I don't know, if you all have seen The Forge, and I don't want to give away the plot or whatever, but there was one day when they had to, have you seen it yet? The Forge?
I'm going there today.
Okay, cool. Well, good. There's one day when they just had to work longer than normal, and I'll just leave it at that. But that wasn't an everyday thing. You know what I'm saying? And so there was a purpose for it. But when we have that balance and we find an environment that allows us that balance, it's really something you need to talk about even in your interview.
Yes.
You need to talk about what those boundaries are, what those parameters are. They haven't hired you yet. You get to ask those questions. And you also can, look on, what is that website? It's not Sliding Door, something about a door, that where you can kind of look up where people talk about their company or whatever and just the environment that it's in. But just research the company and just see what their goals are, what their mission is, what their values are, and all of those things before you make a decision just based on money.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll talk a little bit about boundaries, Onita.
So, in talking about boundaries, one of the ones that is a boundary that even I had to learn. It was as I was, start learning more about boundaries from dear Dr. Nedra Tawwab. I don't know if I say her last name right. I'm sorry, girl. If you're ever gonna Tune in one of the episodes. I promise. But saying no is one of the boundaries. Of course, you got to set that, and having others accept it, but you also be able to accept it too when people tell you no. But another one is either having time management boundary, one where you're actually setting time for things and you're sticking to it. You're sticking to it, and when you have to show up for time for other people's, being respectful and sticking to that time. And in that time management it can be down as minuscule as you're accounting for every second, every minute of the day. I have some people that literally from 6 to 6:05 brush my teeth, wash my face, 6:05 to 6:10. It can be that detailed, and you listen to ChatGPT can help you do that, or you just know where you're making time and during the day for certain ways to help yourself de-stress, where at this time of the day, this is where I'm going to have my hour coaching call. This is for us, anybody who's part of our Praying Sisters community. If you're not, you want to join, we know in the morning there's a time for a morning devotional charge, as well as on Sunday specifically from 8 to 10 p.m. 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're having a time of reflection, of coming together, of of our community time, sharing and praying with one another. That is a time where we have a boundary around that. My family knows this is what's going to happen. Now, I'll have my AirPod in because sometimes I'm not talking. So I'm still, making their little Sunday morning brunch that they want. But they know that's mom's time. So if I need to make it and then go upstairs and be out of their way, they know that's my time. And they respect it. But you have to clearly also communicate these boundaries to family and friends. To your job, if hey, we honor the Sabbath from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. So this is a boundary that we established early on in the interview process. Before you accept the job, before they give you a schedule, they know. Okay, don't wait till you work 6 weeks and you've been working every Saturday, y'all. Just for some of my young people watching. Tell them right, here's a boundary.
Unless you just became converted, then you should have told them.
Told them in the interview on your application. Matter of fact, it's on my application. But setting that time where this is my time of reflection and communion with God, and I'm going to honor that time. So, but again, with de-stressing, have part of a boundary. Good boundary is to have better time management. If you're somebody who's not that organized, or you are, even so, it's actually a psychological thing to make a to-do list. If you make the to-do list and write it down, y'all, I know we have our phones, but I'm telling you, it's something more powerful when I can pick this thing up, write my to-do list. I guess I'm going on over here now, and then check it off or scratch it out that it's done. You get a boost. You actually get a literal boost of oxytocin, a dopamine, one of the two, where you feel good. I did that. I actually did that. And so having that boundary around your time, making time for the things, creating your to-do list, and even on that to-do list, put an asterisk about the things that only you can do.
Right.
Again, we're getting back to delegate. These are things I'm putting an asterisk, but I got 10 things, but other 10, 6 only I can do. The other 4 I'm going to delegate, or I'm going to delete altogether. Okay.
Yeah.
That's part of your time management boundary. All right, sis.
All right. Well, what I was going to say is I'm in this coaching program with Craig Valentine. He's just a business coach, and he's written a lot of books. And one of the books is like The Perfect Morning Routine. And he's like, stop doing all that stuff that people tell you to do, what we talked about earlier. And he has a schedule that you can like kind of model. And one of his things is, so you do whatever the first thing is. Like, I do my morning charges because I do my morning devotion, and then I get ready for the morning charge. That's just part of my life. No one else does that. So that's just me. I have to do that. But he's like, whatever it is, if it's exercise, if it's Bible study, if it's prayer, if it's whatever it is that you think that is your first thing to do, put that on. He said, but then after that, put in what he calls NUI, non-urgent important work. Okay. And what that has looked like for me is, and it's different every day, but it kind of fits around similar themes. So what ideally I would be doing is, so I get up around 4, but I get up around 5 and I have devotion and all of that. And I'm preparing to do the morning charge, which is at 6 o'clock during the week. After we finish that morning charge around 6:20, 6:30, I then take a half an hour. He's like 15 minutes, half an hour, and do something that gets you into the flow of work. And what for me, like today, I had to work on my website because I'm preparing for a meeting. But like a lot of times I will write, either work on a speech or work on something related to that, because it's not urgent, but it is important. It's part of, like, I'm a speaker. It's part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I kind of get into that, like you may say, I'm going to do it for 15 minutes, but you really kind of flow. And it's the thing that, ideally, it's the thing that really you're passionate about. So even if it's like practicing a speech or just kind of doing stuff like that, not the stuff that is just kind of important, but like you really don't like doing it, like maybe editing for me, I wouldn't edit around that time. I would do something that really speaks to the passion that I have. And so you do that. I do that from between 6:30 to 7, and then at 7-ish, because I always say I'm going to stop at 7, but then I don't always. But I go and I walk, or I go to the gym at that time. I've really been walking more because just because I like the gym, but I just haven't been going as much. So I walk, and I'll do that for an hour. Then I'll come back and do breakfast. And so part of the day in the schedule is what he calls deep work. And that's really time to just reflect. Like, you're not on the computer, you're not whatever, you're like letting your thoughts gather, you're letting ideas come to you. You're just like, he says, it's kind of like when you're in the shower and all these great ideas come, and then he's like, take time to do that. And so it's on his schedule. And it's not like 20 minutes. It's like several hours where he's not doing thing. Like, if someone looked at him, they would be like, oh, he's just not doing anything. And I have it on my schedule too, and I have not effectively done it yet because I'm so much in the grind.
Yeah.
And so, but I have 2 important things to say about this schedule.
Okay.
The first thing, that the things that he puts on the schedule are what he calls his anchors. And his anchors are family time,
All right,
personal time, working out, those, date night with his wife, those get on the schedule first. Now his schedule pretty much stays the same at this point, but he said, those are the things that are your anchors. We think of those things as, oh, if I get to it, I'll do it.
Okay.
But no, put the things that are actually about life on the calendar first. Work is important, but work is about sustaining life. It's about earning income. It shouldn't be your whole life. And he said, and then you fill in, I'm going to work here, I'm going to work at this time, whatever, deep work, all of these things I'm going to plan. So he has, on Sunday, he has a planning time where he takes an hour and he plans for the whole week. What do I need to get done? And then at the end of the day, it could be at different times for different people, but whatever the end of your day is, you take 10 to 15 minutes and what he calls a brain dump. You put everything that needs to be done, everything that just comes into your mind, just put it on paper. And then you use that brain dump to create what you talked about, the to-do list for the next day.
Yes.
And James Clear has a similar concept in his book too, in his journal, where you plan for the next day the night before. So you're not making the to-do list just out of random. You've like said, oh, these are all the things that are in my mind right now. What is a priority for me to do tomorrow? And you put, he recommends no more than 3 things, major things. But, James Clear says 3 to 6 or whatever things, because some of those are not going to be as big as the others.
Yeah.
That way, you can manage your time better. You feel less stressed because the things that you really need to do are on paper. Because a lot of times we're overwhelmed because we know there are other things, but we can't like grab them all because we can't remember because our brain is so full. And it's like every night. So, that's the routine I'm trying to get into at 4:45. Like I want to shut down at 5. There's still some Zooms or something I typically might have to do in the evening. Like our show is at 6:15. So I have to do that. But like, if I can stop at 4:45 and do the brain dump and plan for the next day, I do feel less anxious. And then it's a continuous flow.
Yes.
So these kinds of parameters, and I can put maybe a screenshot of my schedule in the description or somewhere. I don't know if I can do that. I can figure out a way to do it. So that people just can see conceptualize what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But really, as we start to wrap up here, we really want to, I do believe that it's completely possible for us to get this under control.
Yes.
To get this overwhelm out of our life. The Bible says in Philippians 4:6, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus.
Yes.
And I'm just going to be honest that I don't have peace a lot right now. And, there are things that I'm working to remove from my plate because I am anxious for things.
Yeah.
When the Bible says be anxious for nothing, I'm not in that place right now, but I want to be in that place. I want the peace of God, and I'm praying for God to show me what needs to stay and what needs to go. Because I'm sure you've experienced this, and I'm sure our audience has experienced this, that kind of tension that sits in your body because there's always something to do. I was telling Onita before we started that I was not prepared for the podcast recording today. And we just were talking about this topic, 2 hours ago, because yesterday was a holiday, which I don't even typically take holidays because I'm so much in business and trying to build this and work. But I was like, I work till 12, and then I was just going to, relax and watch the US Open and just kind of chill, which I did, but I forgot about the podcast. And so then this morning I was more stressed because I was like, I had to work on the website. Then I had to go to the food bank because I help do that on, for our church food pantry every Tuesday. Then I had to figure out a topic. Then I had to record. Then I had to plan this. And then I have a meeting in 20 minutes. And it was just so even when I try to take a break, it's not restful really.
Yeah.
It backs up on the other end. So that's why I don't take breaks. And I know that you all have felt similarly, but I really want us this year. We talk a lot about loving wiser and marrying wiser, but I really want us to live wiser.
Yes.
Because you can't even get to the love and the marry because you're not living.
Right.
Right. Or you're living so just overwhelmed that, Anita's always telling me to get out and go meet, you have to be out in the world, go outside so you can meet someone. And yesterday I was able to go to a cookout, but I didn't go because I just needed to rest.
Yes.
And she's like, yeah, but you could have met the guy there. I was like, yeah, but I needed rest. I didn't even want to be social. And so this kind of stress takes on your whole life. It impacts your whole life to the point where obviously I do go out sometimes out of the house, but I'm not going to new places a lot because I'm so tired. I have to work. When I'm not working, I'm thinking about working. And so I'm tired. And so even the engagement of being funny and friendly and flirty and all of those things, it's just feels exhausting to even think about it. So how are you going to actually meet someone to date and marry if you are so tired you don't even want to go places where people are? So this is not just about, you having a heart attack or it's just about us enjoying life.
Yes.
And I believe that even in a sinful world, God intended for us to enjoy our life here.
Yes.
So how are we going to do that, ladies?
Yes. Yes.
Gentlemen, how are we going to do that? What are you going to do in order to bring that about in your life?
Amen. Amen. One light one and then one heavier one to add. You said, I say get outside. Actually get outside. A lot of us
do that. I walk almost every day.
Right, but I was saying it
Yes.
really makes a difference. Even if you're going into the gym and you're on the treadmill, which is great, it's good, but get outside. Psychologically, seeing the green trees does something to our brain. It's a renewal, but also inhaling the fresh air and getting the sunlight. A lot of us struggle with low vitamin D. Get out there and get the vitamin D on your skin and make time for that. Even if you're like, well, I'm working, I only get a 30-minute lunch, or I get an hour. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, take 15 minutes. Get outside of the building, get some fresh air, get some sunshine on your face. And if you have an opportunity, if you have an AirPod, listen to some things. Listen to some things that they can calm you down. There's plenty of YouTube channels that I sometimes listen to because this is on my list, meditate. I consider that to be part of the deep work. But there's some where you're like, well, I don't have or know what to play or do. There's some that has beautiful music with scripture verses in it that can help you, as well as worship and prayer for me. And worshiping can help de-stress and bring you back to an alignment in a place of where you may not be fully rested, but you can still find peace. In Matthew 11, 28, 29, 30, it says, come to me, and I'm reading from the Amplified Version. Come to me, all who are weary and heavily burdened. We're heavily burdened with all these bags and all these toils of life and all these things going on. But Jesus says, and I will give you rest. Amplified says, refreshing your souls with salvation. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. This is the deep work. When you're sitting there and you're taking this time to sit there and just allow God to work in you, and you're inviting the Holy Spirit in to speak to you and tell you what it is you need to do or what it is you need to let go, spend that time doing that deep work. But he also says, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest, that renewal, that blessed quiet. That means even in a house full of children running around, and you feel like, and I'm going to speak to the single mom too. I was talking to one at church a couple of weeks ago. My mom was a single mom for years, and this single mom was saying to me at church a couple of weeks ago, but I have to do everything. I have to do everything. And her kids now, the youngest may be 9, and I'm like, well, not necessarily. You don't have to do everything. Yeah, you have to still do everything. And so even church has become a huge chore for her because it's the running around, they get in the shoes, doing all these things. And we talked about that, and the pastor mentioned it too, about taking up God's yoke, letting him give you the rest, giving you the blessed quiet. And for his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And it is, it truly is. If we just fully seek God with everything and allow him to speak to us, make the time, set your boundary, make the time. Lorraine says she gets up earlier. For me as a mom too, it's a quiet time. So either I'm saying mom too, I'm saying as a mom. Lorraine's not a mom unless she has a pet. I'm sorry. Let me clarify that for the folks watching. Not a pet. She doesn't have that bag yet. But make the time. So it may be early in the morning. Really, I think it's the best thing to do before you start your day is to spend time with God. He who kneels before God can stand before anything throughout the day. So make the time. But for some of us too, it's later at night when the house is quiet to make the time to do that deep work and spend that time so that God can lift these bags off of you, lift some of these burdens. And it's going to take Change is going to take the renewing of the mind, because some of us have been so conditioned into doing everything for everybody. But let God let those bags down so some of your migraines can go. Some of your blood pressures can be regulated. Your blood glucose can be regulated. Other things that are going on in life so that you can enjoy life too a lot more. He wants us to have an abundant life and to enjoy it. And so I hope and pray that you've gotten some tools from us. I'm one for massages. I believe in doing them. I do massage and facial, but I would tell you, if mentally I'm still not right here, I can still be just as tense after the massage that I was when I went in there. If I'm still coming out now and going, oh man, but I still got all these issues to worry about. Nope. Let it down.
Yeah.
Put those burdens down. And I pray that you've gotten the tools that you can use to live wiser today.
Amen. Amen. I love that verse. And yeah, let's take his yoke and let's give him ours so that we can find rest. God bless you. God keep you. We will see you live next Tuesday at
Yay!
16. And until that time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless.
Good night.